turn the time to Rich. Rich would like to make this a truly meaningful learning event. And so if you have any questions for Rich, please use the Q&A box and our Academy staff will gather them and organize them. And so, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, without further ado, I give you Rich Christiansen.
Thank you very much, James. Thank you for that tender and that kind, generous introduction. Indeed, I feel the same way about you, James. And as you did reach out to me, the Spirit did quickly and strongly prompt me that anything I can do to support and help my brothers and sisters in the Philippines, I needed to do it. I do ask a little guidance to the Spirit here tonight, because the reality is I don't know all of the economic conditions that you're under right now. So I think my comments need to be general but applicable enough, and so I do beg your forgiveness if in any way I misdirect this. But I did have several very strong promptings and feelings that came to me. I also thank you, Lloyd, for inviting Spirit to be with us here today. We definitely all need it. The first comment that I wanted to make was a message of hope, a message of confidence, and a message of love. The times that we're in are indeed challenging, and they're a little bit hair-rattling and maybe even a little bit scary, but they're not unprecedented. I'd like to just share two quick stories with you to begin, if I could. The first is from histories of World War II. In World War II, there was an impossible situation that occurred early in World War II. The British Allied forces were all entering into France, and the German armies occupied them. They surrounded them and began to push them back until they had all the British armies surrounded in one little beach called Dunkirk. And failure was imminent. If they were to be captured and destroyed, Britain most certainly would have been overtaken. And indeed, it's highly likely that we would all be speaking German, not English today. The commander fought with all his might and vigor, but it was impossible. They were pinned down. They were getting just butchered. He sent out a call, one final call that went across the airwaves to Britain, and this was the message: but if not. The Germans didn't understand it, but we, as Christian followers, know the reference of that, of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. But if not, Lord, we will fight to the death, and we desire to be saved. But if not, Lord, thy will be done. Within hours, the single largest land, air, or the water rescue in the history of the world took place. Individuals with little sailing boats, little fishing boats, Olympic yachts, every type of transportation there was made its way across that English Channel and began picking up the British and the Allied forces, scurrying them back to safety in England, where they were able to regroup, and eventually we were able to win the war. The lesson that I learned from this, brothers and sisters, is we do need to plead to our Father in heaven, just as our prophet today asked us to do, to seek with prayer and with earnestness and with fasting, and ask for reprieve and for tender blessings. And I do bear my solemn witness that indeed Lord will intervene, and but if not, let us be faithful. If there's anyone in this world that has an opportunity to be faithful and to be valiant and to go forward, and this, brothers, this is us. The second is also a message of hope, a personal story, if I could. My grandfather was brought to the United States. My great-grandfather was my grandfather's father came to the United States, and shortly after he arrived here from Denmark, my ancestry is Danish, the Spanish flu hit. And indeed, my great-grandfather died of the Spanish flu, leaving his widow, who had taken him 3 years to earn enough money to come over here. my grandfather at the age of 11 or 12 years old had to be the man of house and earn the money for the family, which he did, sending his younger brother into college. He didn't enter high school until he was 21, 22. He graduated, going with all the little kids to high school, and became a teacher there, where he met my grandmother. They married and they went to southern Utah, where his ultimate dream was to homestead. He was actually an agricultural agent, but they went and homesteaded. And just as they did this, the Great Depression occurred. It was absolutely destitute. There wasn't even enough money to buy food, and they barely lived. They certainly couldn't even make the payments on their home. In the middle of that crisis, my father was born. 4 years into his life, they noticed that something very strange had occurred with his eyes, and they were going light and really interesting. As they took him to a doctor, they discovered that he had retinoblastoma, which is cancer of the eyes. And at that point, there was very few survivors of that. My grandparents were required to make an impossible decision. Do we let this little boy go and live till maybe 7 or 8, but be able to see and then die, certainly? Or do we take an outside risk, remove his eyes, giving him maybe a 1 in 10 or 1 in 15 chance of surviving, and then bring a little blind boy with no prospects, no future, no opportunity into this world? Under incredible duress and impossible decisions and much strain to their marriage, my grandfather went out, and the decision was made to remove my father's eyes. My father ended up thriving. He had an eidetic photographic memory. He could hear something and remember it. He went to the School of the Blind, came back, was the valedictorian or the salutatorian of his graduating class, playing the piano beautifully, making tons of friends. He went on to law school, graduating law school without even being able to see. They would read to him and he would capture it. 40 years, of course, no one's going to marry a blind man, even if he is the county attorney, other than my amazing mother, 15 years his junior, who was the art teacher that moved to town. I am the result of that little blind boy and incredible faith and fortitude. And I share the message of hope, of confidence, of love, and determination that they showed great courage. We also can show great courage. This is our opportunity to step forward in fortitude. And I'll say boldly that this is the leadership moment. Anything of significance really happens in our character in the hard, difficult times. And so I begin by expressing a message of confidence, of hope, and of love. The number one thing that you can do to succeed at this time is to be faithful. God's doctrine is a doctrine of faith and confidence. Satan's is that of despair and fear. Anytime you're jittery and trembly, that is Satan speaking. God is deliberate and calm and hopeful. This is a time that we must not jerk the wheel suddenly. If we're in a deep rainstorm and the roads are slippery, we don't suddenly turn the wheel one way or the other. On the other hand, we don't crazily accelerate. We hold steady and we hold confident. And indeed, that's the first message that I'd like to share with you, is do things deliberately and calmly. And anytime you get jittery, take a pause back, take a calm step back and be deliberate in what you do. With that being said, I have felt incredibly calm that this is going to be okay. This will have an impact on our world, but brothers and sisters, I'm confident that this is not the end. I'm the bishop of a young single adults ward. They're all very jittery. And every time I meditate and pray on the matter, I'm very calm that they'll have an amazing, bright future. This is not unnormal. All through the history of the world, there have been periods of dip. And I'd like to begin actually there, if I could, James. Every time that there's a strong action, there's an equal reaction to that. It's the law of, I'm not a great physics guy, but I forget which law that is there's equal and opposite force when something is applied. So we see these market forces that are creating turmoil in our markets, but I'd actually contend that there's equal opportunities. Most of the great successes that I had in business indeed came at the hand of really, really bad, difficult situations. And I'd be happy at some point to share a few of those if you like. I'm not going to belabor you with any more of my personal stories. But indeed, much of the fortune and the business success I came at the hand of really down markets. So in these down critical markets, I'd encourage really three things to look at. Number one rule. What can I do to be a leader and stabilize my existing customer base? Most people in the world right now are, they're down here hiding somewhere under their desk. They're ducked and they're hidden. Stand up, be a man or a woman of God, and go reach out and show confidence. Even if your business is really struggling, if you take the moment to reach out to them by a text or a quick call and just say, I'm aware, pick a business. I'm just going to pick, let's say, a chiropractor. I'm aware that you can't come in, but I know you've had that sore back. How is your back doing? Here's a couple of stretches that you could do to help your back. What's going to happen when this economic crisis is over? Who is going to be loyal and back to you? It's been remarkable. James, is there a toilet paper craze over there or not? Not so much.
Say that again, Rich.
In the United States, there's been this crazy phenomenon going on that everyone's hoarding toilet paper.
Yeah, there's a bit of that too, yes.
Never seen anything like it.
I know.
If you have a bar of gold or a roll of toilet paper, people would take the roll of toilet paper right now. And I quite frankly, it makes me laugh a little bit. But I've been deploying a really, really fun trick to break down the tension. As I've reached out to so many of my friends and individuals that I mentor and my young single adults and the many people in my life, the first question I ask is, James, do you got enough toilet paper? I've got a couple extra rolls I can bring on over, and I even have some extra wheat we can chew on together. And instantly the tension comes down. It's like, yeah. You mean you'd really give me a roll of toilet paper? Yeah, as a matter of fact, I would. Let me tell you what I did to my young single adults this last week. We're quarantined. We can't have more than like 3 or 4 of us together at this point. So my first counselor and second counselor went and gathered the most valuable, hard-to-get commodities there was. Number 1, toilet paper. Number 2, my first counselor has access to a bunch of eggs and chickens. And then the third is some really savory treats. So we snuck to each door of our ward and we dropped off a roll of toilet paper, a bundle of eggs, and some treats, and then send a text, go check your front porch. We got you. We're going to take care of those needs. You can imagine what happened with the confidence in the ward. I would state that if you espouse confidence to your users, to your clients, and check in on them, number 1, you'll increase and get dramatic loyalty. So that's the first piece of advice that I would give you is in a worst case scenario, don't hide under the desk. Go out and forwardly face and reach out and be a leader and example. If anyone in this world should be doing it right now, it's as followers of Jesus Christ. That's my first suggestion. The second suggestion that I would make is look for the opportunities. And they're all over the place. Lloyd and I, when we were doing our trial run last night, we got him a whole new business. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty confident it's going to work out okay for him. I think he's going to become a new manager for Zoom meetings and teleconferencing for small and medium businesses. You know that's a dramatic need right now. Now is not a good time to be investing in airline stocks, but is a good time to be investing in communication stocks or electronic telecommunications. And I'm just using stocks as an example. So if your business is primarily derived in a service that's went away, might I encourage you to look at what the really strong felt needs are? I'm going to come back to that. James, remind me to come back and talk about, matter of fact, I'll make a note here, about where to fish. We're going to talk about the fish model. But look for the strong felt needs. And I'm going to give just a couple of little examples of what that might look like. It's being proved right now that the vitamin B12 and C has really dramatic impacts in helping the immune system through some of this. There's other certain drugs and preventative things that can help, including really clean hydration and water. So if that's a dramatic need, there's a business opportunity. Who's taking the meals to the elderly and making sure that they're cared for? I had an investment that I had made that was just doing terrible. It got killed by Amazon. And I look up and it's up like 500%. What happened? Well, it was in home delivery of food, high quality food items. So that type of opportunity is really significant. Anywhere there's a great need that people are having high urgency on is an opportunity. There's a very significant shortage of masks for the medical profession right now. There's a huge opportunity. If you could spin up is the same true in Philippines, James? Is this protective masks?
It is.
Okay.
It's
so you look at any of those shortages that will most certainly take place, there's a business opportunity there. You look as we start quarantining countries and eliminate trade, there's going to be supply shortages all over the place of where we're importing and exporting goods. Look for the opportunity to fill those shortages. Anywhere there's an action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. What doesn't make sense is to keep doing something that's not working harder and harder and harder. So that would be the second advice that I would give you is look for the opportunity in the cracks. And you can pivot fairly quickly there, even holding your existing business in place. The third suggestion that I'm making to all of the people I'm working with clients is reach out and look for opportunities, if not to at least mitigate the burn on your business, so just to hold it constant and hold steady again. It's not a time to, whoo, I'm shutting my business down all at once just because I'm scared. That's a sudden jerk of a will, deliberate with it. On the other hand, it's not, oh, I'm going to invest a bunch of money. That's accelerating. That's really stupid. And on the other hand, it's like, I'm going to totally shift my business and I'm going to change it from my whole business overnight. I woke up and had a really nice dream that I'm going to shift my whole business of, pick anything, yard care, and now I've thrown that all away and I'm going to do this. That's a sudden jerk of a will. So holding steady and constant and deliberate and making adjustments deliberately and appropriately with your present business is really appropriate. I've been encouraging a lot of people I work with just reaching out to the landlord and telling them, I'm going to be here for the long term. I'm going to survive this and I'm going to be vibrant. And in this period of time, I need a little bit of help and support in covering my base expenses. Can we put things on pause? So cutting your burn is an appropriate response. In this time of crisis, it's not appropriate to be casual and disregarding like I see so many people doing. It's not okay to just go out and hug in the streets and have a big party and get sick. That's a really stupid response. On the other hand, it's not an appropriate response to go to total scarcity and just go into retraction. Measure, deliberate, appropriate responses. Again, I will state that every single major opportunity in my life has come at the hands of a crisis, an economic or some type of downturn crisis. James, I think maybe I should tell one or two of those. I've said that 2 or 3 times. Is that okay?
Yes, please do. Please do.
Okay, I'm going to give 2 or 3. My wife has a really nice little real estate portfolio. That came at the hands of a lot of purchasing in the last major recession. She was able to buy 4 or 5 properties that were literally 1/3 market rate right now, maybe 1/4 market rate. So in the downsides of a market, as everyone else is in hysteria, can be a really, really good time to actually acquire businesses and assets. So if you have any assets and reserves, don't do anything foolish with them. Hold cautious, hold steady, and look for opportunities actually to expand and maybe even pick up some assets as we come through the other cycle of this. So real estate was one example. I was asked that question last night by someone that was listening in, and I had given the example of in the last major kind of downturn in the United States, there was a lot of emphasis on technology. And I deliberately sat down with my sons and said, sons, what do you think the other side of this is going to be? And one of my sons says, Dad, every mom in the United States is going to be using coupons or discounts in any way. And so we set up a series of websites, which we got to rank in the top of the search engines that were all about coupons. pizza coupons, milk coupons, bread coupons, laundry detergent coupons. And we actually would get those leads and then sell those leads for $4 or $5 per lead to actual coupon brokers, such as Living Social and Groupon. So it became a multi-million-dollar success simply by looking at what's the opposite force of a down market. In the United States, and this is where I have to be really, really careful, but there's certain very interesting trends that always occur. A formed decision is always a good decision. A panic decision is always a bad decision. And in the United States, one of the very, very interesting trends is as the markets go down and things get really tight, women tend to buy a lot more beauty type products. And I don't ask me to explain that one, but it's been proven over and over and over. So they'll buy more nail polish and more beauty type supplies and less big ticket purchase items. And so those are always really interesting trends to look and follow. Look at other models that people are making work and then deploy it yourself is another really good idea. So those are a few interesting suggestions that I might make of how you can approach the market. James, any other comments or anything you'd like to push me on there?
Well, I think when I was listening to you, the thought that came to my mind, there are actually opportunities right now that are excellent. They may be temporary, just related to this situation right now. And I think they're still really good. But we can probably even think of opportunities that are good right now, but we can actually expand and continue even right after. And so I think there are so many wonderful opportunities ahead of us. If we just really, just like what you said, take the time to think, be calm, and start thinking about this through.
How I know where there's a really good business idea. This is what you look for. I'm going to go into some of zigzag philosophies now, and I don't know how many of you were here when I came over and lectured a few years ago, but I talked a lot about this. How do you know when a good idea is there? When something is, I don't understand that. Anytime you get to something that's like, that's confusing, that means there's a market inefficiency and an opportunity. Anytime there's something messy at hand, if there's a problem where it's like, oh, that's just, that's a messy problem, I don't want to do that. That's a great opportunity. And remind me to come back. I'm going to tell Alex's dog poop business. I got a couple to come back here. So that's a great opportunity. Anytime there's a market inefficiency that you see that there's gouging that's taking place, anytime you see a shortage of something, that means that there's an opportunity. And anytime there's a crisis at hand, that actually means there's an opportunity. So if you just simply look for even partial solutions of that. Examples of that right now would be, I mean, think of an extreme as if we actually had something could help isolate and protect people. That would be a real good thing. A cleaning service that would actually truly sanitize critical spaces, and you could certify it. If there's a critical meeting or a event or something that's going to take place and you wanted to offer that simple little business of sterilizing, actually is not a bad idea. Education is an incredible opportunity. Here in the U.S., all our kids have come home. All the moms are going crazy because they're having to teach all of their kids in school now from home. So any way to help online education would be really good here, at least in the United States. A really tragic one, but an outcome that's realistic out of this is, heaven forbid, but for morticians, this is going to be a boom season. Yeah, that's a sad thing to say, but you know that it's true, an opposite reaction force. Also, the impact that this is going to have on the older population, they're most at risk. So getting solutions for them to help keep them safe and protected, or even educate them, has to be a major consideration if there's opportunities there. And that also will mean that there's going to be a significant transference of wealth from older population to some of the younger population. That's also a very interesting trend to probably watch at this point. So there's a few examples of things to look for. Oh, let's see. I want to quickly tell, I've intonated two little things, and I want to look at how far we're into this. I've been going for about 30 minutes, so I'd like to just teach really quickly. I'd like to go through, I'm going to also talk about guardrails quickly. I want to go through the three things that I've mentioned. The first one is I want to tell Alex's story quickly. I call this the value equation. I think it applies every single time. The first thing that I teach my children, business-wise, is to always ask the question, how can I contribute? How may I contribute? And if you continue to ask that question, even if it isn't directly to get money, then it always ends up yielding long-term fruits. My family is a very interesting family. Although we love sports and love movies and everything, the primary conversation around our dinner table is business models. And so it's not uncommon for me to come home and have one of my sons that have indeed come up with a business. I'm really proud that each one of my sons, we don't pay for their college or their missions or any of their schooling or anything. We actually help them set up business when they're 16, and then they have to fund their own way. So they're very motivated to get their businesses running. My three oldest actually created million-dollar businesses when they were still in high school. And then they saved enough and they gave it all away to charitable efforts after that. And so I came home one day, my very fun little son, Alex, who's not so little anymore, this was about 10 years ago, he said, Dad, I started a business today. And I says, oh, son, please do tell me. And so he says, I started a dog poop picking up business. I says, what? That's crazy. He says, oh, yeah, I was outside the other day, and our neighbor, Jerry Hawks, was complaining about how in America we have these green spaces, lawns that we have out in front of our houses. And most people try keeping them orderly and neat and everything. And he says, yeah, this neighbor was complaining that all the dogs kept pooping on his lawn and how frustrated he was, and he just couldn't stand it. And so I said, really? And what did you do? And his mom says, oh, what did you do? And he says, don't worry, Mom, I used gloves. I was really clean. And here's what he did. He went around the neighborhood, and on a little piece of paper, on a paper like this, he just scribbled, Alex's pooper picker-upper. I will, first time for free, from every week after $5 per week. And he went and hung it around about 35 to 40 of the neighbors' yards. And so I asked him, wow, how did it go? He says, oh, I have 20 clients. So in one day of him thinking and hearing, how can I contribute? Oh, there's a problem with dog poop. No one else will pick it up. I will. Taking his bucket and his little hand glove, went and picked. By the way, I'm not proposing anyone do this business. I'm just proving a point here. James is looking like, oh man, Rich, what did you just say? So he went and picked all this up, and the neighbors naturally came to him as business. So I have a 6-year-old that was earning a really significant amount of money as a very young man, simply from applying intellectual capital plus the service of the key relationship in his capital in his life, yielding a business. So I would give you that same equation in your life. What do you do? What do uniquely you do? And maybe some things that other people even don't want to do or not willing to do, because I'm willing to do it. I've done so many things, it's like most people say, I wouldn't do it. I'm willing to do that. So what's your intellectual capital that you have an expertise at? Lloyd happens to now have an expertise on Zoom meetings, running them efficiently and well. That's his intellectual capital. Plus is the service being given to this community, James, myself included. If I ever need a Zoom or a video conference or whatever else, I bet anything Lloyd's going to be running it. And so that's his plus. The relationship capital, or all of us, you do that in the form of a business, which is equal sign, it always yields financial capital. So many people think that if I get really, really smart and then I run around using minus signs, taking advantage, trying to trick, price gouging, then and all the people I know, it's going to yield a bunch of money. That actually is not an equation that works. So I would ask you to ask yourself, how can I contribute? What are things and needs that other people are not solving, and how can I add value to that to prove myself in this period of time? The value equation. That was my story number one. The second thing I'd like to talk about, this is a new model I've been using, and I think it's particularly appropriate for the Philippines. And I'm hoping that this works. I'm drawing here. All right. And my handwriting is terrible, but here we go. So I hold that up. And now I got to see myself. This axis right here is the size of the market. This axis right here is felt need. So way over in this side is going to be 1 and 10, 1 and 10. As you look to any business idea to do, make sure that you follow this model, or else I think this is a great way to quickly check, will this business work and how quickly can I get it to viability. Small market, really big market. Small felt need, really big felt need. When I say felt need, James, does everyone know what that means? Or should I articulate that a little better?
You may want to expand it a little more, but yeah.
Okay. Felt
something
need.
That really need to solve, maybe.
Okay. Felt need. What I mean when I say felt need is how urgent is it? How urgent is it? How strongly do I feel about it? A felt need of 1. Oh, here, I'm going to provide everyone paper. White paper. I'm going to have the brightest, shiniest white paper ever. Let's start a paper business, okay? That's a felt need of 1. That's not very strong felt need. Right now, a felt need of 10 is if I could provide a coronavirus vaccine. How strong is that felt need? That's a strong felt need. So, using this model, I want to dissect what you don't do and what you do. You're not going to be able to read my writing, but I'm going to write it anyways. All right. Low felt need, small market size. That's what I call fishing in a mud puddle. You never catch fish in a mud puddle, so don't fish in mud puddles. Oh, we're going to start a white paper business. No, we're going to start colored paper business. We're going to have 10 different bright, wonderful colors that we're going to sell, and it's going to be for all of the people that are in this this training system of James. Everyone that we know in this training system. How big is the market? It's really small. How strong is the felt need? 1. It's a mud puddle. You're never going to catch a fish, so don't do things with strong felt need in small little markets. Okay, now we're going to go fish in what's called the swamp. This is a large market, a really big market, but small felt need. Now we're going to create colored paper for all of the Philippines. We're going to provide the paper for all the Philippines, nice, bright white, and bright colors. How strong is the felt need? Still really small. You catch fish in the swamp, but it's carp and catfish, and it tastes really yucky. It's not very tasty fish, and it's really small profit margin. So please don't fish in the swamp. So this is where everyone goes to. They go to the ocean. Strong felt need. We're going to create a coronavirus. We're going to create a solution, a vaccine for the coronavirus, and we're going to sell it to the whole entire world. Let's start development right now, James. Come on, get your paper and pen and the prescription. Let's get everyone out. And let's start coming up with a model for the virus solution for the coronavirus. Should we fish there? Okay, I want you to answer honestly, everyone. I want you to, if you think that you should fish in the fish hatch or in the ocean, I want you to raise your hand. If you think you shouldn't fish there, raise your hand. I just raised my hand. Don't fish
we have a lot of
ocean. I'll tell you why. There's a lot of fish in the ocean, but there's a lot more water than there's fish in the ocean. And so I don't like to fish in the ocean. It takes tons of money, tons of resource, and it's really a long, long, long shot hit. Examples of that are like apps, or in the United States, it's weight loss. Every woman in the entire United States wants to lose 10 pounds. It doesn't matter who they are, they want to lose 10 pounds. Stronger felt need, big market, tons and tons of competitors, tons of money, very low probability of success. So you're saying, Rich, where the heck do we fish then? You fish in the fish hatchery. Small, tight felt need can try small market, strong felt need. The reason for that is you're able to get to the market. You're able to get to the channel. They're tight and they're clumped up. I have a cabin down in southern Utah, and I have this 84-year-old mother-in-law, and she's just delightful, and she manipulates me like I'm sure all mother-in-laws do manipulate their son-in-laws. She came to me a couple years ago and says, Rich, there's 2 things I have not done in my life, son. Will you take me to do them? I'm smart enough to know, what is it before I agree to do it? She says, the first is I want you to take on this. It's called hiking the Zion Arrows. It's like, it about kills me. I says, Grandma, that's not going to happen. She pouted for a minute, and then she says, the second thing is I've always wanted to catch a fish. Would you help me catch it? I says, Grandma, I can help you do that. So we went down to my cabin, and down there's this little stream at the top of this lake. The lake all drained, and when it drains in the fall, the fish get really hungry. And we caught 25 fish within an hour because there were so many fish, they were just bubbling. They were all constrained tightly together in a really tight little scope spot. That's where you want to fish. So if you're thinking about business ideas and opportunities that you could create that are realistic, that's where you go. Strong felt need. And I don't mean, I'm just throwing stuff at her. I'm making stuff up on the fly, and it needs a lot more attention than what I'm giving it. So please don't just take and run these without vetting it through my 4 or 5 other models to validate it. But if you had a service that was provided to the elderly that were maybe shut in and at risk, that could help them sanitize and protect and even make sure that they were nourished, is that a service that there's a strong felt need? I would argue, yes, it is. Is that constrained and tight if you did it in a very geographic community or in alignment with, for example, fellow Latter-day Saints or some group or following? I'd say it is. The trick here is to push the felt need as strong as you possibly can. And that's where the opportunities are in these down markets, because there's a lot of concern and a lot of stress and anxiety for leaders to step forward and indeed provide solutions and solutions for felt need. Right now, if you were making mass and you're doing it specifically in your village, that's going to be a strong felt need. But if you're trying to do it for all the Philippines, you better have a couple, $4 or $5 million to pull it off. So the trick is to pull down the market size so you can get to the people, kind of like my stream, to tighten in that little stream. When they're in the lake, all the fish were there. They were in the lake before. But it wasn't until in the fall when the lake drained and they were in that little stream all bunked together that it made it really easy to catch. Now, this is where most of you are fishing or have fished, and it's the lake. It's right in the middle. It's kind of a little bit of everything. That's what most small businesses are. The trick is to take the services that you can and push everything you can down into that fish hatchery. Okay? All right, I think I killed that one dead. I want to go 1 more minute, and then, James, I'm going to open up here. I went just a little longer than I projected, but there's one more concept I want to hit, and then we'll open this up for questions. I'm hoping we have a couple. I want to talk about the concept of guardrails. I wrote a book, a national best-selling book called The Zigzag Principle, that I talked about 10 distinct sections of what you need to get to success. The zigging and zagging specifically is number 1, drive to profitability. Number 2 zag is add resource and process. Third zag is add a scale element. But each one of those actions are guardrailed. So as any little endeavor that you put forward here, anything new, please guardrail it. there's been a lot of buzz about, and I love the model of Ulster Wire's business canvas. I'm sure you guys have talked about that. And I love the model. The problem is you can pivot to nowhere. So make sure that when you come up with a new little idea or new little concept, put guardrails around it to protect you from driving off the cliff. The 4 guardrails that I always use is, number 1 is how much money will I put towards it? If I don't get it to profitability and viable with this much money, I call it a failure and move on. Second thing is I always put a time. How much time will I give it? In other words, I'll give this venture for 2 months, 3 months, 1 week, whatever it is, put a guardrail of time. A third is duration of time. You can't say, oh, I'm going to give this 3 months and then only spend 1 hour a day. So you've got to say, I'll give this X amount of hours per day and allocate it and treat that time sacredly. And then the last and the most important is what guardrails do I put on my relationship capital? There's certain relationships that I protect and hold so careful that I don't take every idea and just float to them. You need to be careful, and as you build this trust, most important asset that you have is actually your relationship capital. James has done an amazing job of building that. That his relationship capital with me is what allowed him to call me on a Saturday, and that quickly, of course, James Fantone asked me to do something, I'm doing it. That is relationship capital. That's worth more than money, and you treat those key relationship capitals sacred. The biggest way, and the way that I found the most success in my life now, and I'm very fortunate now to have deep, rich relationship capital, is to focus and emphasize on that. Even above making a quick buck is to build deep relationship capital. The more influential, the more powerful, the more good-hearted, and the more successful people you draw into your life, the more successful you will be. All right, James. Well, I cranked through probably about an hour and a half of material really quickly there, and I know I didn't cover everything with full vigor, but I think I would like to now open it to you, James, for any clarifications you'd like me to make, and then maybe we could field a couple of vital questions.
Yes. Well, thank you, Rich. I know a lot of people are really, the wheels are turning, but we have a lot of great questions, and I would like to read some of them right now, and then maybe this could be other opportunities for you to expand on other principles. Here's one, Rich. She goes, after the quarantine period, a lot of businesses will be doing price offs. Are there other efforts we can do without sacrificing margins?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And the answer of that question is anything you can differentiate. Quality or offering is the key. The biggest danger that I've seen so often, and I saw it when I was in the Philippines, is turning everything into commodity. Do everything that you can to differentiate your product from another. Now, how do you do that if you're just selling services? Bundle them, put them together as an offering. And that adds value and requires that you not necessarily just compete on price alone. Any way that you can move out of a commoditization market, particularly if it's goods and services that are not going to be as relevant, then the advice that I'd give you is try to actually, as careful as you can, offload any inventory or items that are just price sensitive and are commodity, and try getting yourself in a position where you're not playing in that market and where you're playing in a scarce market. At what point toilet paper is worth more almost now than, well, it's definitely worth more than candy bars and maybe not gold, but close. So you've got to shift yourself out of the commodity market. And if you have commodities, figure creative ways to bundle those commodities to actually fill stronger needs. And again, that's pushing down into the fish hatchery with what are the felt needs. Asking yourself, what are the key needs that are going on, and how can I apply that service or that product into that felt need to fill a need?
Thank you, Rich. Wonderful, wonderful. Here's another one, and I think many are thinking in this line right now. She goes, or he goes, once we identify a felt need, for example, alcohol, how do we handle the lack of legit suppliers, the lack of opportunity to move around at the moment? Also, how do we navigate laws that prohibits that right now?
Okay, so I heard two questions here. The first is how do I navigate the losses that may be occurring?
Right, the laws, the government laws, the government laws.
The government loss. Is that
not like the home quarantine, the lockdown?
Okay, I'm not sure I'm understanding the context of the two. Help me just a little bit more.
Yeah, for example,
You mean just you can't conduct business because the government has shut everything down?
Yes, in a way. For example, so they're saying now we have discovered that here's a really then felt need: alcohol, sanitation, and all that kind of stuff. But and we like to do it, but at the same time we're limited because we're not supposed to go out. We cannot probably contact suppliers.
Yeah. Well, my suggestion there would be do whatever you can electronically and build on your relationship capital. And there's an element part of it. It's tough. I wish I had just a magic bullet for that, and I don't have one for that because we're facing the same crisis here. For those of us that are warriors, and I consider myself a warrior and navigator, I would honestly rather go fight in a war and storm a beach and be in a firefight than I would have to sit at home and watch everything. But this works. Look, right. Zoom, we're working, we're collaborating, we're creating value here. I can feel the spirit even though you're in the Philippines and I'm here. So look for ways to collaborate and build on your relationship capital and band together. Now's not a time to go into private scarcity and go hide. It's actually a time to build your tribe of most trusted individuals. And what resource do you have? What resource do I have? And how do we put it? And the reality is there may be a period of having to lock down, but certainly if that's your business and there's no way to progress it, you can't tell me that you can't at least reach out and share positive sentiment to your customers and clients and develop some level of loyalty there. Now, if your commodities there indeed are going to be price reduced, you're going to have to stay competitive and you may take a loss. I think all of us through the world are indeed one form or another taking a loss. And so there's this delicate balance of seriousness and market reality, but also looking for ways to actually differentiate and to make it so that you actually are adding something that is not just like, I'm having to dump this thing. But I'm not stupid enough to realize that everyone's feeling the same way about, let's say, maybe pencils as they are about toilet paper. Most deals are put together on relationship, though. They really are. You don't have to be face-to-face, at least in the U.S., so it may be a really good time to make friends with Lloyd. Most training and service businesses, a couple of my clients that I work closely with that I mentor have several of the hardest businesses that there are. I have one of my clients is the thought leader in the United States for all female chiropractors. How do you do chiropractic service in it? You can't do it, right? It's impossible. So she's been at least stepping forward as the leader and giving hope and confidence and ideas. Mitigate the expenses, reduce every expense that you can to position yourself wisely when you return, and then build your customer base and reach out to them and give hope and confidence and solutions. Intellectual capital plus relationship capital. Certainly they can teach them a few stretches to do to help with their problems so they return when this thing is over. And also an idea of that one is vitamins. It's amazing how these top vitamins really are helping, and so they've been selling vitamins. I feel like I didn't do a very good answer on that, James, and I think it's partially because maybe there is not a simple, straightforward one answer.
Right. I agree with you, Rich. I agree with you. I think more importantly, I think it's beginning to really develop that mindset that you're talking about, using the model. And there will be a lot more restrictions right now. But I think if we understand the model, I think we'll be better off. So we may have, very, very limited opportunities right now. But still, I think if we really force ourselves to think about it, we can still spot some. But I think more than anything else, I think it's the development of this mindset And right after this, I believe everybody's here right now and absorbing this will be better entrepreneurs.
Well, here's a really interesting thought. So it's also an impossible question to ask without knowing what the product and service is, because we can't brainstorm it.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say that they do have a commodity. And I don't know what the restrictions and lockdowns are. I don't know if anyone can leave home or not. But in the case it is a commodity, maybe it's possible to actually, possible to have a runner take some of the goods and services that are commoditized to their home and do door-to-door delivery and have a runner very carefully, a young person that's not going to do it, and have a mask and be safe and all that good stuff. But there's solutions. I'll also make the comment that a lot of people aren't thinking really clear, and everybody's screaming, the sky is falling, the sky is falling, it's the end of the world, the sky is falling. It's not the end of the world. We just got to hold our heads. So even the suppliers of a lot of really valuable resources are freaked out, not knowing what to do, discouraged. And so it's possible to maybe even pick some equipment up and inside your family do some building of face masks or something. There's always a solution out. There's always a solution out. President Nielsen, I've loved that video he shared of when the plane was going down and the woman next to him was freaking out. And if you recall, he said, I was calm. And I think that we can be calm and should be calm also with our understanding. There's no need to freak out here. It's actually deliberate, confident, look for solutions, and reach out to the suppliers. You can still call them. You can check in. You can say, how's your business doing? Anything I do this and this, and I was thinking this. What do you think? People are probably more open now to do business and conduct than ever before. Just saying.
Rich, we have other really great questions, but I think you have nailed that down. I think, it's the process of thinking and going through this. And I like what I'm reading also in the webinar chat. They're now thinking of ways to collaborate together. I mean, maybe alone you cannot really do much, but together we can still go through some more process of brainstorming and everything. Here's another question, Rich. Things are.
I want to comment on that before you hit the next question. I want to make a comment.
Yes, go ahead.
There's two incredible models that I've seen work at two of the highest institutions in the country. And I've been fortunate to lecture at both of them. One is Harvard. Harvard's model is assign a mentor. And you get this old stodgy mentor that drags you along through life you can't fail. Okay? That's model one. Model two is actually MIT's model. It's Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, that of mastermind groups. Right now would be such a powerful time to be forming little groups of 4 or 5 synergistic accountability partners that they become your blood brothers, your tribe. You bond together and start working together on solutions and brainstorm. This works, this doesn't work. What resource here or there? I got this contact, and that would actually compound your relationship capital. Again, my formula, intellectual capital, being smart, plus is service and reaching out. Relationship capital is where it happens. So you can't tell me, I don't know how, and maybe it sounds arrogant to say so, but if I was in the Philippines, I would figure out a way.
Right.
I would figure out a way to get some of these products and services out. As a matter of fact, I feel almost a little embarrassed to admit it, but I've quit operating companies. I've now founded or co-founded 52 companies. And I committed to my wife and my mentor that I'm now mentoring others. I'm no longer the quarterback or the soccer player. I'm the coach. So, but it's killing me, James. It's killing me on every level. It's killing me because there are so many opportunities right now to make big businesses. There are so many opportunities. I can't drive down the street without freaking out of all the opportunities. Just like I just drove here quickly, there was 2 cars on the whole freeway. I was able to go really fast. And that's the same way in business right now, because most of your competitors have pulled their cars off side of the road and have hidden.
Right.
You don't need to hide. We don't need to hide. We can be confident and go forward with faith. And if you don't believe me, look at the message that President Nielsen just sent out. I'm so glad he did that because it's exactly what I've been saying. And he said it in spades, that this is the history of the world. This happens. This is not the end. Go forward with faith. Let's hold on. Let's keep ourselves together. Now, in the short term, it may feel desperate, but I would propose that faith, hope, and charity always hold true. What is faith? Faith is thinking it. It's saying it. It's writing it down. That's what faith is. We had faith tonight. I've said faith, and I've seen a number of the chats, a couple of real hopeful. That's step one. Two is hope. That's putting it into action. That's actually taking action on what you did. And then charity is always the fruits that derive out of that. Charity is the pure love of Christ, and it's also the fruits of love. You very seldom see that verse without hearing it said, by their fruits ye shall know them. Our fruits can be good as we combine together and actually come with solutions to these crazy problems. And God will inspire and bless, and I know it'll be hard. It didn't take it easier for my grandmother and grandfather. They had very difficult things, but the fruits showed. They had faith. It's our chance. Let us have faith.
That's wonderful. Rich, well said. I have one really good question here from Dude Suwiko. I think he's still serving as district president in Mindanao. And I think a lot of people are thinking this, and we would love to hear your thoughts on this one. He goes, I teach people how to trade global markets, Forex and all that kind of stuff. I'm having a hard time selling my online course since I feel it's not ethical to sell something during this time of need. What should I do to overcome this feeling?
Thank you for the question. I think that our moral compass has to be number one thing we do, but we oftentimes, I find my young single adults often confusing fear and jitterness actually with actually inspiration. So make positive that you do so faithfully. Anytime a market, you just taught markets. I love markets. Huh. Money lost? Not so much. Somebody sold the transaction. There's money just taken out on the other side. So right now, if you're teaching how to do conservative monitoring downs in the down market, they're actually making really good money. There's always two sides to the equation. If I push, if I go pop, yeah, it hit and everyone felt the sting, but there was also the pushback on the other side. So I think it's okay to look at the other side of the equation and not always just play bull market. It's also okay to play the negative side of the market and maybe teach how to mitigate risk, if nothing else, or how to control downsides in it. And yeah, Forex is a tricky one right now. I don't know that there's a moral dilemma, in my opinion, with that. What I do think is it's high risk. And James, you know me enough to know, most of the people may not know on here, but my fundamental belief is never risk what you can't lose. Never, ever, ever risk what you can't lose. So that's where the moral dilemma comes into play with me. Quite frankly, oh, and it sounds so terrible to say because I don't want, but and there's a lot of ways I'm excited because stock is on sale right now. I just bought Carnival Cruise Lines last week at $11. That's a P/E ratio of 2. No, it's 1.6 when I bought it. That's almost like the value of the boats. And so there's a lot of opportunity to teach people the other side of the equation, I think, in the markets, in the investment markets. And I think as long as you're going about it with real intent, with the best information you have, even though it's volatile, people need to be assessing their own risk, and you can teach true principles. And so I would just... I don't know. I've overtalked that one. I've overtalked that one, but I think that I hit it on the head. If you're using your best inspiration, putting the very best that you have forward, and teaching people to also be prudent with their assets, they've got to make their own judgments. I wouldn't be telling anyone what to do. But just like today. I mean, look, I've done the same thing. I don't get nervous for these things. I don't. I was 2 ounces nervous tonight coming in to the Philippines, sharing with my brothers and sisters that your situation may even be a little more desperate than where we're at here. And I hope that, but all I can do is the very best I can with a moral conscience to do good. And so I think that you need to have that same approach with what you do. I mean, how inappropriate is it to say it's a great time for morticians, but it's true. It's true.
Another thing, Rich, is, probably we just have to reword it a bit. Say, for example, like if you're teaching Forex or anything, maybe I would reword it today like, a perfect time to use home quarantine, learn something. And not really push the issue that this is not the best time to buy. Probably it's not the best time to buy, but it's the best time to learn. And so maybe if we just come up with the right angle to find a solution to what people are going through, I think we can. It's just a matter of finding that need angle, felt need, you're saying.
Yeah, I think that's the right answer. Of also just the Spirit will prompt you when things aren't appropriate, and don't ever push anything that's not a good fit. That's using the minus sign, and always use the plus sign. It's also okay to call it out and just speak truth. I think we need to speak truth. It's my new mantra for the year, actually. Speak truth or say nothing at all. Live my life fierce with reality. Those are my two mantras for the year. And I think we need to speak the truth the best we can as we see it. And we need to face this thing fiercely with reality, not timidly and hiding. And so, yeah, Forex is probably a really tricky one right now. But you can't tell me. So the question I would ask instantly with that example is, what is the crisis now that all those Forex traders are going through? And how can I help provide a solution to that channel? For me, it doesn't matter what the product and service is. I had this brother-in-law that just drove me nuts. I finally got I didn't yell at him, but close to it. Because every time I'm going to reach, can I just take a minute of your time? It's like every time, a minute of time, 50 times, and it wasn't a minute, it was like 2 hours. And every time we get to a great business, and he said, oh, well, I just don't want to do that because I'm not passionate about it. And finally, I told him, Galen, I shouldn't have said his name. I hope this isn't being recorded and getting brushes of the world, but the last one is he was passionate about selling German Stein mugs into Utah. That's what you call a mud puddle. That's a mud puddle. And I says, I would sell women's stockings if I had to. I'm not passionate at all about women's stockings, but I'd sell women's pantyhose if that's what it took in order for them to be successful. The issue is always the channel. It's very little about the service. What is Google? Google is a channel. They are the channel. What is the major retailers? It's a channel. It's a way to get products into market. So if you have a following of business training, you already have a channel, and those individuals are going to have strong felt needs. And even if you have to shift it a little bit for the environment and times, that's okay. Use the channel to meet the felt need and sell whatever products or services best meeting their felt need. I bet if we drummed up away on this group right here, we could actually figure a way to get a supply of toilet paper or masks or anything we've talked about assembled in the Philippines.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Rich, do you think this is the best time to buy stocks? One is asking.
Everybody's got to use their own wisdom and prudence there. I had an international trading company, and get this, and talk about good timing, that we would buy all the high-end products and parts would come from China, get assembled in the US, and then we would export these high-end goods to Asia Pacific Rim. I sold that. Thank heavens I'm out of that. And I felt strongly prompted to actually keep the money on the sideline, thinking the market was overinflated. My personal opinion, and again, this is not guidance and I'm not held accountable, but as I think there's still going to be a few bumps along the way, and I think that there will be opportunities. You should never try timing the market, hit the very bottom. But at what point you see the indicators, number one, are all really good metrics, really good PE ratios, and really good value, and it's just a clunk on the nose. Really good leadership team, number two, and number three, really good fundamental business practices. Those are stocks that can be really good to get in, but you have to be careful on doing it. And certainly, I think trying to day trade is exceptionally risky right now.
Here's another good question, Rich. Can I lend money with least percentage in this time of crisis so as to create income, or should I keep it in the bank?
Ask the question again.
Can I lend out money with the least percentage in this time of crisis?
I got it all, but the least
percentage. Least percentage.
Oh, with the list percentage. Okay. Yeah. Here's my take on that one. I don't know you. I don't know your situation, and I would not dare make a statement on it. It also depends on who you're lending the money to and getting it secured. It also depends on your personal situation. I did make the statement, never risk what you can't, what you're not afraid to lose. And so if your investor DNA is lending money, and that's your history and your background, and you understand it really well and have the models and can secure the money carefully, it sounds like a really good thing. For me personally, that's probably not what I do really good. And so it's probably not a great idea for me to do. But I would not recommend you go and risk. I'm a firm believer in not only food storage and personal savings. Isn't it wonderful we're part of a church that teaches these profound principles and that we're so well prepared? Isn't it amazing? I think in addition to food, it's really important to have a personal financial buffer so that we're not driving right on the tailgate of the car in front of us financially. And so I think that this will be a time of our little financial reserves. I would not be burning your financial reserves in that. I would look for what's the biggest impact that you can have with your investor DNA, to be smart, to invest smart. And everybody's different. Everybody's investor DNA is different. You've got to invest in what you know and understand. I love real estate, not for everybody. I'm probably not a very good Forex trader. That wouldn't go very well for me.
Rich, another question here. What should we do with our money in the bank? Keep or withdraw the money?
Oh, there's another one. James, you got to answer that one.
Give it to me. Donate it to Ace. How's that?
Yeah, I don't know the financial banking situation there. I'm not taking my money out of the bank if that's what the question is, but I don't know the stability of the banks there.
Mm.
I think that some level of diversification of assets is always really, really a good thing. Mm-hmm. But I think we got to be careful. Everything that I'm hearing, and I've been able to, granted it's here in Utah, but I am fairly tied in. I chair one of the major universities in the state, and I've been able to hear a number of kind of protocols, what's going on. And the primary emphasis of this is to quarantine probably for 6 to 8 weeks. Mm-hmm. And the intent of that is so that we don't overstrain the medical system here in the U.S. and to get through this surge of the virus passing. Spreading it out will make it so we don't completely strain and cripple the medical system. And that's the primary purpose of this period. And although we don't know for positive, everything that I'm hearing is a 6 or 8 week kind of outage is what we're looking at.
Few more, Rich. Do you think there is hope for small businesses to bounce back in the Philippines?
Absolutely, 100%. Maybe now's a good time to make this. As I mentioned to you, James, here's the deal. Is when we get through this little crisis and we get through it, I'm going to come over to the Philippines and I'm going to come and do a couple of one-on-one face-to-face visits and help you rebuild your businesses and get you some really good models of how you can just go with vigor and vim into the market. I don't know how that's going to happen, but I'll make that personal commitment that as soon as this thing gets over, within the next year, I'll come over and spend some time. It will be a good time. Small business owners will not only survive, will thrive. As a matter of fact, I think it's what will be and hold together not only your economy, but our economy. And it's not uncommon. It's the exact same concern and duress here. My counsel that I'm giving all my friends that are small business owners is hold the burn. Cut the burn, don't jerk the wheel suddenly either way. And just keep yourself viable for the future in every way you possibly can.
Oh, that's wonderful. Rich, we have a lot of people now saying that we will really look forward to you coming here someday soon, when this is over. And
I'll make that commitment. I don't make that lightly. I don't know how or what that happens, but I will get over there. As soon as it gets over, I'll be over within a year to support and help you. Because I recognize how challenging, and as I was over there, my heart was really rendered with how entrepreneurial your spirits are. And there will indeed be great opportunities. I think you've got to be really careful, my brothers and sisters, though, is differentiate yourselves. Differentiate yourselves. Try keeping out of the commoditization mindset. I keep coming back to this fun little business of Lloyd. But if I could go through each one of you, I'm guaranteed that sounds crazy, but I guarantee if I spent an hour with each of you, we could come up with a business that was equally viable as Lloyd. I don't know if Lloyd's doing a little rain dance right now, James, but he better be because he's got a business.
He is.
I can do that.
We came to that last night accidentally, right?
That's true. That's true.
So I think you just got to think of what's the thing that I'm doing. He didn't even realize it. He just learned it. I think he just had learned it. I don't know, but he put it together, and there's going to be lots of people freaked out of doing that. So, and even if that doesn't, what did it cost him if that didn't work? Well, a couple of days and a float night. I mean, we all have things like that we can just reach out of our comfort zone a little bit. I'm just going to really quickly tell one other little story here that I call this the sea of life. On the sea of life, there's 4 types of individuals, and you see these people over and over and over and over again on the sea of life. The first is drowners. These individuals, it doesn't matter how much we seem to help, they're always just like drowning, and they find a way to try drowning. And so that's one type. Hopefully we are not drowners that are seeking ways. That being said, all of us are all 4 of these at one point or another. I've drowned 3 times actually and had to be rescued. Part of the gospel. The second is drifters, floating around. And that's what makes this so hard, is we can't control our future, and we're kind of beaconless, and we're kind of drifting around. The next is surfing, jumping from thing to thing, doing fun things without a rudder. What we need to be is we need to be navigators, having the courage to sail into the storm, tack against the waves, and set our compass to the North Star, which is Christ, and fight into the waves and look for a direction for a positive outcome and not feel reactive.
Thank you so much, Rich. A lot of the questions actually, I believe, are related to the earlier ones. Let me just quickly mention, I think one of the best things that's happening right now is, like many people who are in this webinar, is actually recommending that, you know, we join hand in hand and come up with another, maybe a group chat so that we can collaborate. Just like what you said, not all ideas would probably be realized right now, but I think you have given us a lot of great frameworks, a lot of important things to think about. And then I think as we move along together, then we can capture more opportunities on how we can really navigate at this present moment. So this is really excellent, Rich.
Let me make this statement, is break into groups of 4 or 5. Don't have it be big groups, break into groups of 4 or 5, and everybody needs to speak their truth. So often people hold back, and you bond together and just become kind of these little tribes of attack and support to each other, and you'll build incredible relationship capital, and everybody will lift everybody else out. And I wish that I had more specifics. I think I'd be able to answer more directive if I knew the exact scenarios. But I think in general guidance,
right.
I think what I speak to you is largely truth. Be not fearful, little flock. I mean, over and over, if you're prepared, you need not fear. Over and over, we're told to not fear, and I'm confident we'll come through this and we'll be all the better for it. And I look forward to being with you and giving you a hug without getting infected here shortly.
That's true. Well, Rich, thank you so much. This has truly been very, very inspiring. I think you're right in saying this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning. The things that you have shared with all of us today would truly make us sit down and think and collaborate with one another and become better, not just now, but I think we will become better, most especially after this crisis is over.
I think that the real shift and interesting opportunity will be because the crisis will take a little bit of time to unwind. Even China's production, where a lot of the goods and services come from, take a while to unwind. So look at any supply chain interrupts. There's going to be a lot of opportunities. And it doesn't have to be crazy. That's why I encourage not going into the ocean. Just go into small little niches into the fish hatchery. Just go to smaller markets, strong felt need. If you look at it that way, high probability of success.
Yes, thank you so much. Well, Rich, we don't have questions anymore. I think we still do have, but I think most of them were already answered from the previous answers you have given. And just like what you said, I like what you said. These are general correct principles. A lot of our questions are really, really specific right now. But I think if we really take the time to think about this and let the general principles sink in, we'll get the inspiration.
Yeah, I think that that's right. And I think some of the modeling that I taught last time I was over there, specifically zigzag modeling, works exceptionally well at this point. I call it angle of declination. Pull your angle of declination down. Pull the steepness of the curve down of what you're attempting to do to just really be able to execute quickly and precisely on a small, simple little idea. And make sure it's not mud puddles. That's the danger, is you're going to find yourself in a mud puddle. Make sure you push the felt need with whatever you have. And the hardest question for me tonight by far was the question of what do I do if I have a product or service and this price going to erode and just going to kind of go down. Tragically, you're probably going to have to take just a little bit of loss and liquidate that to keep yourself viable and alive in the market. And that was a hard question. And there is going to be some hard losses that you have to take, and use your best judgment and follow the Spirit. But don't jerk the wheel. Don't make any sudden stupid movements.
I like that. I like that a lot. Rich, wow, thank you so much. And I remember you also mentioning that this is probably not the first and the last webinar that we can have. We don't know how long this crisis will be, and maybe we can set up another one and hear your wisdom once again. We're organizing other webinars, but we would want to experience your wisdom once again.
I'd welcome that invitation, and I mean, a lot of my focus right now is doing everything I possibly can to, as I had taught myself, is how can I contribute, and so I would be delighted to support in any way I possibly can. And thank you, James, for inviting me. And just God bless you, my brothers and sisters, that the good will come to you. And I pray that you'll find stability and happiness and joy in this wonderful but yet crazy world we live in.
Wow, thank you so much, Rich. I know that everybody has truly been blessed right now. And this will be a wonderful, even family discussion. As we share the many principles you have shared with us today.
One of the biggest concerns I have in the world for my children is the concept of resilience. This is our opportunity to teach our children resilience and to teach them perseverance and faith. And so let's not fail our children, if nothing else. Let's be strong men and women of God of faith and move forward. Our predecessors did it over and over and over. They did it out of Nauvoo, did it out of Kirtland, did it out of examples. I'm confident over and over in the Philippines. We can be faithful and we can get through this and we can face this with confidence and with happiness even.
That's so true. Well, Rich, I just want to once again re-echo one of the first things that you have said today, and that is this is truly a leadership moment. And so we truly need to step up as leaders, not just in business, but in life, in our family, our families, and the many great principles you have shared with us today would truly be a wonderful guide and a compass as we navigate in these really challenging times. Rich, thank you so much. Final words before I'll ask my wife Cynthia to give the closing prayer, but go ahead, Rich. Your final words, please.
No, I just think that you hit it. This is your leadership moment, and let's be very, very grateful for this amazing opportunity of life, and thank our Father in heaven for the experience and the ride. And we fought in heaven to come down here, and let's be faithful and prove ourselves faithful. And God bless you. That's my final comment.